Hi guys! Today we're making a miniature bathtub and shower combo that is perfect for your Barbie dolls and dollhouse bathrooms. And wait for it, we're also adding an adorable recessed shelf for extra storage. Don't worry, I've got you covered with a free printable template to make it super easy for you to create your own version, and all the details will be in the video, so grab your craft supplies and let's begin. To make the bathtub, start by cutting this part of the template twice. I suggest using a lightweight cardstock for this. Fold the little tabs on the left, right, and bottom sides inward, and the upper tab outward, like this. Then cut this part of the template into cardstock and fold the little tab at the bottom inward, and the one at the top outward. You'll have to make two of these as well. Next, cut this part, and if you're using my free printable template, I suggest using a hole punch to cut the circle. At this point, you should have all these parts. Attach the shorter sides to the bottom part of the tub, then glue the longer sides in place, and finally attach the short and long sides together. You should end up with this. Now cut this part, fold all the tabs downward, and finally glue it on top of the piece we assembled earlier. Now cut this part twice and fold all the tabs in the same direction. Repeat these steps for this part of the template. Glue these four sides to the top part of the bathtub, like this. Then attach the sides to one another. Finally, cut this part and glue it to the bottom of the tub. I colored the part right under the hole in the tub's bottom with a black marker to achieve a more three-dimensional look. To give the bathtub a shiny finish, you can either use acrylic gesso and then a gloss varnish, or, and this is what I did, cover the structure of the tub with a shiny material like glossy photo paper, plastic sheets, or even just regular paper covered in clear tape. To do this, you'll have to cut all the parts of the template we already used into this shiny material, minus the tabs, and then simply glue them to the bathtub structure. This is what our miniature bathtub should look like at this point. To make the drain of the bathtub, cut this part into metallic cardstock, and I used old food packaging for this. Glue this piece over the hole in the bottom of the tub. Then cut this part, and I suggest cutting two layers and then attaching them together to get a thicker piece. Now take a toothpick, cut it to a length of approximately 3 mm, glue it to the silver disc and paint it black. Finally, glue the toothpick into the hole, this way. To make the overflow faceplate, cut this part into cardstock 3 times. Glue these layers together, then cut the same shape into metallic cardstock, and glue that part on top of the previous ones. Now cut this strip into metallic cardstock, peel away the paper part to make it thinner, and glue it all around the circle we just made. You should end up with this. Glue this final piece to the bathtub. And just a little note, another super easy way to make this part is by using an old round battery like these. Now we can start working on the faucet for our bathtub. Start by cutting this part into cardstock. I use thick cardstock from old packagings, and if you're using my free printable template, which you'll find linked at the end of this video, I suggest piercing these holes with an awl or a drill. And just a reminder, if you own a Cricut or a Silhouette cutting machine, you can get the digital templates in my shop, linked in the description box. Glue the 3 layers together like this. And you'll have to make this element twice. Then take a toothpick and cut it into 2 sections, each approximately 8 mm long. Glue them to the 2 pieces we made earlier, and while the glue is drying, cut this part and attach all these layers together. The final piece should be around 4 mm thick. Glue this piece to the ones we made before. Now cut this part 2 or 3 times and glue all the layers together. The final piece should be approximately 4 mm thick. Then cut this part and glue one element on each side of the piece we just built. Next, cut these little circles and glue them to the faucet. Finally, glue a little bit here if you want to make a diverter. Glue this final piece on top of the one we made earlier. Then cut this part and attach all the elements together like this. At this point, if you want, you can simply attach this part to the rest of the faucet, but I wanted to make it a moving piece, so I first drilled a hole into the top of the faucet and into the handle. Then I used a small piece of metal wire to connect the 2 parts together. This is what our little faucet looks like at this point. I gave it a shiny chrome finish using acrylics and spray paints. I also painted a little black circle here to create a hollow effect on the spout. Next up is the shower head. To make a slide bar, cut this part 5 times and stack all the layers together. you'll need to make 2 identical pieces. Repeat the same step for this part of the template. Now take a skewer and cut it to about 8 cm in length. Set aside the cutout part as it will be useful later. Once again, I colored each element with acrylic and spray paints to achieve a metallic look. When all the pieces are ready, assemble them like this, leaving the middle piece unglued so that you can adjust the height later on. Time to make the shower head itself. Cut this part of the template and fold each element along the dashed line. Then stack the pieces from shortest to longest and glue them together. Now cut this part into thin cardstock and pierce it with a needle or a awl. You can use this template as a guide. Glue this part to the shower head. Then cut the piece of skewer we previously set aside to 2 or 3 mm and attach it to the base of the shower head. Finish it off by adding a coat of shiny chrome paint. Now that our faucet and shower head are all set, let's connect them with a metallic hose. Grab some gift wrap metallic twine and cut a 20 to 25 cm piece. Then attach it to the bottom of the shower head. Wrap a thin strip of paper around the cord and glue it in place. Repeat this step with a second strip of paper on the opposite end of the cord. Then glue it to the bottom of the faucet. To finish it off, add a touch of metallic paint to the paper strips. At this point, we can install the faucet and shower head on the wall of our bathroom. To make a rod for the shower curtain, get a round wood stick or a big skewer, cut it to the same length as the bathtub, then paint it with silver chrome paint. Now cut this part of the template, making sure the hole in the center fits the shower rod. Then layer the 3 elements together like this. You'll need to make this part twice. Finally, color both pieces with chrome metallic paint. Glue one of these plates to the curtain rod and set the other one aside for a second. To make a shower curtain, I used an old napkin and trimmed it so that it was about as wide as the bathtub. In place of the curtain rings, I used these jump rings. Attach them to the top of the napkin, spaced evenly apart. Finally, to create pleats, lightly fold the napkin in an accordion style before sliding it over the curtain rod. When the curtain is in place, you can glue the remaining plate to the rod. Now the shower is ready, so let's start working on recessed shelves. I built the walls using the same method as I did for my room box walls, and if you're interested, I'll include a link to the tutorial at the end. Next, I cut a frame out of cardstock, layering 3 pieces together for extra stability. Glue the walls to this frame. Then cut 2 rectangles and fold their sides to create the top and bottom of the recess. Attach these pieces to the frame. Then cut another rectangle, fold its left and right sides, and finally glue it to the other elements. I recommend applying a coat of acrylic gesso to achieve a plaster-like appearance. To make the shelves, cut a few rectangles from mat board or cardboard and cardstock, making sure they fit snugly into the paper niche we built previously. Then take a handful of craft sticks like these and glue them to each rectangle, trimming the excess and sanding the edges. I chose to color my shelves with diluted acrylic paint, then I gave them a coat of clear gloss varnish. Once the shelves are ready, place them inside the structure, using a small box or a wood block as a support while the glue dries. This will keep the shelves straight and spaced evenly. And there you have it! Our little recessed wall shelf is complete. As promised, here's the link to the free printable template, and if you're interested in the SVG and Stiletto Studio files, there's a link to my shop in the description box. I suggest you watch this video next to find out how I made this room box using cardstock and wood sticks. And this is all for today's video. Until next time, bye!